Hello Capricorn, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at what you've dealt with in 2025, where your energy is at right now, and what you need to know and expect moving into 2026. Friendly reminder that this is a general reading and it is not here to resonate fully for everyone, and it won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what resonates and to leave what does not. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right, Capricorn, we're going to jump on in and we're going to start with looking at oracle cards first, looking at your energy in 2025, your current energy now, and what you need to know and expect moving into 2026. And then I'll dive deeper into the reading with tarot as we progress. But let's first start with what you guys have been dealing with. What did your year look like? It was the year of the snake, so a lot of shedding things that aren't aligned, peeling back layers of limiting beliefs and unhealthy patterns and habits. And I know it's been a difficult year for everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but for a lot of people. And I do think that moving into 2026, things are going to start looking up. So let's look at this past energy for you, Capricorn. First card out, you have step out of your comfort zone. I feel like 2025 just absolutely threw you out of your comfort zone, like catapulted you out of your comfort zone. It feels like there were certain things that you couldn't ignore anymore, certain situations that just weren't aligning or weren't working, experiencing dead ends, and honestly kind of finding yourself in a little bit of a limbo period here. You have a time for healing, take time to breathe out and look at the bigger picture. And I think that this is this energy of feeling a little bit lost and stuck, especially because I do feel like a lot has changed for you over this past year. Even if it hasn't changed all that much outside of you, I feel like you've changed a lot. I feel like you've really been through a very transformative period here. But with this take time to breathe out and a time for healing, I feel like a lot of this year was about going within for you and really looking at, things that aren't working, or, what it is that you're really wanting or desiring, maybe experiencing a lot of burnout, which shifted you out of a career path, or experiencing, just unhealthy relationships that pushed you out of spaces that weren't serving you anymore. And I think that that can be so challenging in so many ways, but I do feel like it's really look at the bigger picture. I really feel like it's opening you up for a lot of good energy to enter into your life. But in between that transformation, where we're experiencing endings and things like that, is kind of that limbo period where you don't feel like anything is happening. I call it the in-between. You don't really, know how things are going to turn out or what they're going to look like, and you just kind of feel a little bit stuck. But that's usually for a time for processing, for coming back to yourself in a lot of ways. But let's look at the energy that you're in moving into 2026 here, Capricorn. Your commitment is being tested and confidence is your key to success. Okay, so here's the thing. This year showed you what isn't going to work anymore. The patterns and the behaviors and the relationship dynamics that aren't going to work anymore. And this energy that you're in is about shifting toward what is more aligned with you, but it requires you to commit to like a certain path or idea of what you want your life to be that is no longer familiar to you. And that's really challenging, because I think that when we're getting rid of outdated beliefs and ideas and patterns and behaviors and all the things, it leaves us with all of this unknown, right? And we start to wonder, can I have the things that I want? Is it possible? And the answer is yes, absolutely. But it does require you to show up differently. And I feel like this is about getting in tune with what is being asked of you right now, in terms of, showing up in healthier ways for yourself and for other people. So I don't necessarily know what those specifics are. Again, this is just overall energy. We will look at tarot, but what do you need to know about 2026 here, Capricorn? What can you expect? moving into the new year in 2026. Because the thing is, if you don't change the patterns and the behaviors, the cycles are going to repeat, right? I think that this year was a year of really highlighting those things, and now it's really up to you whether or not you want to, show up differently or change how you're showing up. You have it's time to take action. I feel like this year that you're moving into is a year of like always really being on the go, being really busy, because I think that you're shifting into kind of like a rebuilding period almost. The energy is gaining momentum. I love this. Nothing will come of this situation with you're very close to achieving your goal. It's funny because those energies seem really, contradictory, but when I see this, nothing will come of this situation, it's this energy of feeling like you've hit a dead end. And I think that you've hit, these dead ends in your life, in certain ways, but it's actually moving you closer to the things that you deserve and desire. With the energy is gaining momentum. So think of it almost as like a catapult, right? You move backwards to move forward. And I think that that's a lot of what this year has been about, is maybe feeling like you're taking steps backwards, feeling a little bit lost, a little bit unsure, not really knowing where to go from here. And 2026 and I kind of said it before the cards came out, but is an energy of rebuilding, of showing up in, different patterns and different beliefs and different ideas. It's almost like you've changed so much, and now you are building your life from the version of you that you are now, not the version of you that started 2025. So it's really interesting because I think that it's been really challenging, and I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's all been good. It's for a good reason, because I don't want to, downplay your experience or your feelings. But I do think that the energy that you're shifting into, if you allow it, is going to take you to some really cool places here. Let's look at the overall theme of this for you, Capricorn. So just kind of gives me insight into the theme of the message, the theme of the journey that you're on. Before we dive into tarot here. No? Courage and focus. I think that's the theme of your 2026. Courage and focus, because I feel like you have confidence as your key to success. So this is about showing up for things in a very confident manner, right? In a very courageous and confident manner. And I also feel like it's a time to really like lock in a way. Like you're really locking into certain dreams, to certain goals. And I think that this is about really showing up pretty relentlessly for the things that you want to create. Again, I know that I've said this a lot, but I feel like it's really important to reiterate. 2025 highlighted what isn't going to work. 2025 showed you what is always going to lead to dead ends. 2026 is about redirection. It's about taking what you've learned and showing up differently, right? And I think that if you're willing to do that, like I said, I think you have a lot to be excited about. So let's look at this even more here, Capricorn. Let's look at this past energy. Take time to breathe out with step out of your comfort zone. It's rebuilding, but you're rebuilding from more of an aligned place. I think that's what's different about it. Because again, you've changed a lot, right? Past energy here for Capricorn. Yeah, right out of the gate, Page of Swords in reverse. There were certain things that didn't align with like who you were authentically, like who you are authentically. Almost as if maybe you were having to show up in ways that it didn't really match like who you were and what you wanted. Maybe it was playing small, right? Keeping yourself smaller, keeping yourself in certain boxes or, under certain expectations of other people. And I think that, this really led you, and I think that that's why a lot of things didn't work, or you realized what wasn't going to work, is because the lack of authenticity that you, had to bring to these things, even if like you were doing it knowingly. if you were like, oh, in this friendship, I have to hide these parts of myself, or like in this relationship, I can't be 100% honest of like who I am or what I feel because I'm afraid of pushing the other person away, or in this job, I have to show up as a work version of me. I can't really be who I am. Like, I think that there were certain things that just weren't aligning with who you really are at your core. Maybe with the version of you that you've been trying to be for so long, a version of you that tries to fit in, a version of you that tries to, do the best that you can for others. But I feel like what's interesting is these things didn't work because they didn't actually align with your true desires, with these things that you might not even be aware that you want. And that's a lot of the times why we stay in places that we don't belong for so long, is because we think nothing better is ever going to come along, right? We're like, well, if I don't have this or do this, then I don't know what else I can do or have. So we just kind of stay, but then eventually the universe forces us out of these situations, not to, keep us from our desires, but to actually move us closer toward them. You have the Fool here. So you're definitely being led to some sort of a new beginning, but a new beginning that you weren't quite ready for. I think that this situation, or whatever this is talking about, you had a lot to learn and a lot of growing to do in these spaces. And I think you did. So I think that that's why you were kind of in this stagnant energy for a while, is because there was, this need to get very, to go within and to look at what needed to shift, what needed to change. Because if you're not aware of what needs to shift, right, then you're going to show up the same. King of Wands in reverse. I think that you were very aware for a while that certain things weren't working. I don't think that this is like a news flash to you. Like, I think that this is very much like you were like, you know what? I know these things aren't working, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't feel like I have options. I don't feel like, I don't believe anything better is going to come along, essentially. The other thing that's really coming out to me in these cards is this like orangey red color. If they're like, it's in all of these cards. Yeah, because it's not in all my cards. So it's like it's like more of an orangey red, and it's really bringing up sacral chakra energy, which, is all about authenticity and vulnerability, and really kind of tapping into maybe certain, like, some shame or some guilt that maybe made you think you deserved less. I don't know. But I feel like maybe you dealt with a lot of that throughout the year. But where is your energy at right now? Your commitment is being tested. Confidence is your key to success. It's like you had no choice anymore. Like, you had no choice in making certain changes, but these changes were needing to be made. Is that upright? Yeah, it is upright. Wheel of Fortune. Things are shifting for the better, but it will require, Knight of Wands, you to really put your faith in, I don't know what it is, because the Knight of Wands to me is like a leap of faith, but it's also about vulnerability. This is really a time to, like, there's no room in this for acting on self-doubt. Because I think that you've been doubting yourself for long enough, like maybe your skills, your talents, your abilities, your lovableness, your deservingness, your ability to receive good things. Like, you've been doubting that for long enough. And that's one of the things that I feel has kept you in certain spaces that didn't align for so long. And I think that this is about reconnecting with almost like and this is going to sound kind of cheesy, but then I'm going to elaborate on it. But like reconnecting with the belief that dreams can come true, right? That you can truly live a life beyond your wildest dreams. Because I think that, one of the things that I learned, and it took me a while to learn, but I learned that settling doesn't get you anywhere. It keeps you in the same spaces, same places, same relationship dynamics, and we settle for a lot of different reasons. A lot of times, again, we think we can't have anything better. We think we don't realize that better exists. So the universe will come in and kind of move us out of those spaces, and it feels very much a lot of times like a punishment, and sometimes it can feel like, oh, this is proof that I can't have the things that I want, or this is proof that I'm not good enough. When in reality, healing and growth is not about becoming somebody that's worthy or deserving. It's about realizing you've been worthy and deserving all along, and that you've doubted that for a long time. And I think that that's what this energy really is about. I think it's hard for you to believe things can shift for the better. But here's the thing, if you've grown and you've changed and you've evolved, right? If you're showing up different, if you're healing wounds, if you're doing that work, of course things are going to get better. Because when you learn from the things that you've been through, when you take what you've been through and you look at it through the lens of how is this helping me grow, how you move forward is just naturally going to be different, right? Which is why it's so important to go within and look at what role we play in our life and how our life is unfolded, even if there's a lot of things out of our control, right? When we look at the role that we play, at how we could have done better, how we could have shown up better. And I'm not saying better in terms of been more or been greater, but I'm talking about setting stronger boundaries and speaking up about your needs and, taking bigger risks or being more confident in what you have to bring to the table. Like, that's what I mean when it comes to showing up better. And I think, and I said that at the very beginning, that this is about getting very in tune with what is required of you to show up better for you and for others. And I think that, what we don't realize is so much of the positive shifts that happen outside of us, so much of the things that shift for the better is because we shift for the better. Our inner world shifts, which then leads to our outer world shifting. So, and I said this a lot, but what isn't going to work anymore. So this is not a time to repeat old patterns. You're not replacing one job that didn't value you with another. You're not replacing one relationship with an emotionally unavailable or inconsistent person that didn't treat you well with another, right? You're looking at the patterns and you're saying, what didn't work? What was going on here? What do I need to show up for, moving forward? And that's why you start to create better, is when you move away from things that don't align with what it is that you're truly capable of. You open up the door to so much more. So what does Capricorn need to know moving into 2026? This is very much a forward moving year. I think this year you saw a lot of, you felt like you digressed in a way, like almost like you took steps backwards or there was losses or whatever. This feels like a year of progress. This feels like a year of moving forward. I'm not saying by the end of 2026 all your dreams are going to come true, okay? Maybe, who knows? A lot can happen in a year. But what I am saying is that this is a year of really focusing on progress, allowing yourself to put one foot in front of the other. Oh, I love this. You're about to embark on a pretty cool journey here. A really cool journey of, I kind of heard finding yourself, but like finding your, who you really are, what's really meant for you. Like, this feels like a year of exploring in a lot of ways too. I think that when we figure out what isn't working for us, we then start to uncover, what is, or what does work for us. Yeah. 3 of Wands. This is very much like moving out of your comfort zone. It's like settling isn't going to work. Accepting less than what you deserve isn't going to work. Not believing in yourself isn't going to work, right? We know that not taking the risk isn't going to work or isn't going to get us there. Like, it's not going to work. So why not try to figure out what can work? This is about taking risks, putting yourself out there. Finally starting that project or, putting your stuff up for sale on Etsy or making the website. Like, this is about taking those tangible steps forward in a way that you never really have before. If you've had a lot of ideas that you've put on the back burner or a lot of creativity that's been suppressed, going back to that sacral chakra energy too, that is all about creativity. I think that this is really a time for expansion and a time for authentic expression. So you can't hide anymore. You can't hide. You can't hide behind, what isn't serving you anymore. You're exposed. All right, you're exposed and you're out in the open, and it's a good thing. It's scary as hell, but I also feel like this is the year where it's like I don't want to say this because I feel like we always have something to lose, right? But and I think that that's how you should approach it. Like, what do I have to lose, right? I know that settling doesn't get me to where I want to go. I know that not taking the risk is going to get me to where I want to go. So why not take it, right? Why not take it? And, I've always said, it's better to try and to fail than to never try at all, because we don't regret the things that we tried and failed at. We regret the things we never gave a chance, right? So I think that this is really that, so what if I fail? So what if it doesn't work? So what if, it ends? It's like, At least you tried. At least you showed up for it. At least you gave it a chance. And I think that, you know, this energy of your 2026 is, it's exciting. It's scary. Okay. And I'm not saying you have anything to be scared of. Okay. So please don't think that's what I'm saying. It's scary because it's out of your comfort zone. But I've really learned that the things that are equally as exciting as they are scary are the things that align with us the most, because it's usually, you know, the things that we desire are on the other side of the things that we fear. So it's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to put yourself out there, maybe to put your work out there, to be more authentic in your connections or in your relationships with others, to speak up more, to set stronger boundaries, to be more honest with yourself and others. Like, all of these things are really scary, but they pay off in the end. What else does Capricorn need to know about 2026 here? You have this Tower. Okay. And this goes back to the card we saw. Nothing will come of this. Things fell apart so that you can rebuild better things from scratch. Hang on. That's way too much. Can I have a clear, concise message clarifying this Tower, please? Things fell apart so better things can fall into place here. But the thing is if you try to rebuild the same things, if you try to rebuild the same things in the same ways, it's all going to fall apart. Yeah, going back to the Queen of Swords. And I feel like the Queen of Swords is kind of confirming this Page of Swords in reverse, but since we already used it, because the Queen of Swords is all about authenticity and truth. This is about building from authenticity and truth. And this is about, again, we're not holding back anymore, right? We're not hiding. We're not accepting less than what we deserve. We're being honest, we're being real, we're being authentic, and we're letting what doesn't align with that, the relationships that don't align with that, the people that don't align with that, the paths that don't align with that, we're letting them fall away. Because anything that requires you to show up different than who you are, to show up in self-abandonment, to risk not having your needs, desires, and feelings met. Anything that requires you to abandon who you are is not meant for you. And I think that there have been things in the past that have required you to abandon who you really are and what it is you really deserve. And that's why certain things are not working or have not worked. Let things fall away and better things will come into place. And I think that that's the biggest thing you need to know. Anything that is lost because you speak your truth, because you're honest about, what you need, what you deserve, what you believe you bring to the table, anything that is lost because of that is not a loss. It's alignment. And that's what's so hard, is we get so afraid of losing good enough that we never really fully attract what's best for us, because we're so afraid of losing bare minimum, or, what is as good as we've ever experienced. And even though there might be so much more waiting for us on the other side of the settling or the accepting less. Okay. So yeah, 2026 is about locking in, showing up authentically, putting yourself out there, risking the vulnerability. And I think that you'll see that the things that you build are going to have a much more solid foundation. We're going to hop on over to the extended. This is where we look at what you can do right now in order to move forward in alignment with your higher self. So we dive deeper into these messages. We look at the tangible advice, and I've got an advice card to pull from your spiritual team at the very end for what you need to know for 2026. Any information for that is in the description box below. Otherwise, Capricorn, thank you so much as always for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right. Bye, Capricorn.